Prime Field.
Welcome to Prime Field. Serah Williams arrived in stores with a title that carries weight in any locker room sim. Reigning Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. The supposed answer to UConn's lingering front court problem. Her resume from Wisconsin was clear. 3 seasons as the defensive anchor in Madison. A share of the 2023-24 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year award, alongside Ohio State's Celeste Taylor. More than 200 career blocks. A place near the top of Wisconsin's all-time shot blocking list. When she chose UConn over LSU and North Carolina in April 2025, the expectation sharpened. She was meant to close the gap that foul trouble had opened for Jana El-Alfi and Ice Brady during UConn's 2024-25 title run. Geno Auriemma called her a player who could play at a really high level on both ends of the floor. A great asset for a defending champion. But the film and the numbers raise a central question. In Geno's system, is Serah Williams a defensive anchor, or a foul liability that threatens to undercut her own impact when the stakes are highest? This episode follows that dilemma from promise to data to the pressure of UConn's rotation. At Wisconsin, Williams was more than a rim protector. She was the system. Across 3 seasons, she compiled 211 career blocks. By February 2025, 195 of those had already placed her second all-time in Wisconsin history. Opponents had to reshape their offensive plans around her presence at the rim. Her role was defined, 30-plus minutes per game, a primary anchor in a scheme that relied on her timing, length, and instincts to clean up mistakes. Yet, even in Madison, scouting reports carried a warning. They noted a historical propensity for foul trouble, with a career average that hovered between 2.5 and 2.6 fouls per game. The problem was manageable in that context. The minutes stayed high. The risk was absorbed into her importance to the Badger defense. At UConn, the same red flag has followed her into a larger spotlight. The question is no longer whether the fouls exist. It is whether they can be contained inside a championship blueprint that demands precision on every possession. That question turns from narrative to measurable reality when the numbers are normalized. The raw statistics at first glance can mislead. At Wisconsin in 2023-24, Williams averaged 31.0 minutes per game and 2.7 fouls. Her fouls per 40 minutes sat at 3.4. In 2024-25, still in Madison, she played 32.0 minutes per game. She averaged 2.5 fouls. Her fouls per 40 dropped slightly to 3.1 and to 1. The pattern suggested control within a heavy workload. At UConn in 2025-26, the surface number appears better, just 2.1 fouls per game. But her minutes have fallen to 17.7 per game. When adjusted to per 40, the foul rate surges to 4.8. That represents a 56% increase in foul rate compared to her final Wisconsin season. Less playing time, more fouls per minute. Her game log reinforces the trend. 4 fouls against Xavier on November 30th, 3 fouls against Utah on November 23rd, 2 fouls in just 14 minutes against Ohio State. In 2 of her 7 games, she has committed 3 or more fouls while averaging under 18 minutes on the floor. The data reframes the discussion. Her issue is not simply fouls happening. It is the rate at which they arrive in relation to a shrinking opportunity to make an impact. That rate becomes even more revealing when matched with what shows up on film. The tape isolates patterns. Williams' whistles tend to cluster around 3 categories of defensive action. First, the entry pass. Her aggressive hands, an asset in disrupting post feeds, can become a liability. She reaches. She overcommits to denying position on the block. Box score timelines show fouls arriving early in possessions, as she battles for space before the ball is even fully secured. Second, the verticality question. At Wisconsin, her 6'4" frame and timing produced 84 blocks in 2023-24 and 69 in 2024-25. At UConn, that block production has dropped to 1.0 per game through 7 contests, just 7 total blocks. The shift in officiating standards, particularly in tightly called high-profile games, appears to narrow the margin for contact. In that compressed window, any subtle lean, any forward drift of the torso is punished instead of rewarded. Third, late rotations. In Geno's system, Williams is no longer the singular backline anchor. She's part of a defensive structure that includes other elite defenders such as Sarah Strong. Help that arrives a half step late often meets an offensive player already in an upward motion. In those moments, officials see contact rather than clean for vertical contests. Individually, each category is correctable. Collectively, they define a foul profile that cannot be ignored. And when Williams leaves the floor, the consequences ripple immediately through UConn's rotation. UConn's overall defensive metrics are elite. A team defensive rating of 91.4 points allowed per 100 possessions, just 54.4 points allowed per game across a 7-0 start. The Huskies sit atop the Big East by both record and efficiency. But within that success, Geno Auriemma has constantly searched for the right combinations. 44 different lineups used across the first 120 minutes of action this season. The experimentation complicates any pure on-off analysis of Williams' impact. Certain realities remain clear. Williams is the starting center, averaging 17.7 minutes per game. Jana El-Alfi provides 9.6 minutes off the bench. Ice Brady has appeared in only 2 games, logging 23 total minutes as a situational option. When Williams picks up her second foul in the first half, as happened against Utah and Xavier, Auriemma faces a choice. He can leave her on the floor and accept the risk of a third whistle, or he can pivot to El-Alfi, or a small ball lineup with Serah strong at the 5. Preseason analysis framed Williams as a solution to UConn's foul issues in the post. El-Alfi's own foul trouble during the 2024-25 title run was a known concern. Williams was supposed to alleviate those worries, not replicate them. After the Utah game, Auriemma offered a pointed assessment. He said he thought Serah Williams was better, noting that the staff had challenged her on rebounding and physical presence. Her line in that contest, 3 fouls in 16 minutes, illustrates the narrow margin between answering that challenge and being removed from it. Every foul shrinks the rotation. Every early whistle forces a strategic recalibration. And as minutes disappear, the question shifts from how good she is to how long she can be on the floor. The statistical collapse in some areas of Williams' defensive production suggests more than a simple reduction in minutes. Her blocks per game have dropped from 2.3 at Wisconsin to 1.0 at UConn. Her defensive rebounds have fallen from 7.3 per game to 2.0. Some decline is expected in a new role with fewer minutes, but the per-minute drop is steeper than workload alone explains. The central tension emerges. To avoid foul trouble, does Williams now moderate the aggression that once defined her as a Defensive Player of the Year? Her rim protection at Wisconsin was described as fundamentally changing how opponents approach their offense. That level of disruption requires decisive, fearless vertical contests. A defender calculating risk on every challenge becomes reactive rather than disruptive. That shift is compounded by context. In Madison, she played 32 minutes per night as a singular anchor. In Stores, she is a tertiary option, learning to fit around other stars within a more complex structure. Auriemma has hinted at this adjustment. He has noted that Williams is still learning how to play now, though, playing with other great players. The comment acknowledges a process still in motion, a player adapting to different expectations, different spacing, and different accountability. The mental load is not captured in box scores, but its fingerprints appear in the numbers. Less dominance at the rim, less rebounding volume, and a foul rate that rises even as minutes decrease. From that tension, a longer-term question emerges. The story of Serah Williams at UConn is still in its early chapters. What exists now is a dilemma, not a verdict. On one side is the profile that brought her to Stores, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, hundreds of career blocks. Evidence that in the right structure, her presence can reshape an opponent's offense over the course of a season. On the other side is the math within Geno Auriemma's current system, a 56% spike in fouls per 40 minutes, a block rate and rebounding profile that have declined in a reduced role, a rotation that tightens whenever she heads to the bench with early whistles. UConn's defensive infrastructure remains one of the best in the nation, but its ceiling in March and April may hinge on whether Williams can convert her reputation back into consistent extended minutes. Her legacy in Stores will likely be defined by that balance. If the foul rate can be stabilized, she has the resume and physical tools to function as the anchor UConn believed it had secured. If not, she risks becoming an elite defender whose impact is capped by availability, not ability. The Serah Williams dilemma, then, is not just about one player. It is a case study in how a championship program integrates a decorated transfer with a known weakness into a system that demands discipline on every possession. For now, the question remains open. Defensive anchor or foul liability? Her minutes and what happens within them will write the next line in that answer.
Prime Field!